My name is Rayan El Amin. I'm a programs manager here at the IFI. Welcome to this event at the Issam Faris Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs. The lecture is titled The Making and Reclaiming of Communal Spaces in Beirut, the story of the Dalieh. Abir Saksouk is an architect and an urbanist. She has been involved in several research projects, including the history of spatial production of the informal suburbs of Beirut, and more recently, the neighborhood surrounding el-Helwe refugee camp. In 2006, she was directly involved in the reconstruction efforts in Untitled Chapter in South Lebanon. She produced a project about public space on the coast of Beirut entitled The Sea is Mine. Her interests include multidisciplinary research on space, exploring tools of urban change, and she is a blogger. So help me welcome Abir.
Hi. I just want to first introduce that this talk is based on a paper that was first developed as part of the project that Rayan mentioned, The Sea is Mine, with Dictaphone Group, and it was later developed through a grant with the Arab Council for the Social Sciences, also with the help of Nafawaz. She was my advisor. And the paper also got later developed for later conferences and is now part of a campaign also for the reclaim of Dalieh. So the talk is entitled the Making and Reclaiming of Communal Spaces in Beirut. Can we dim the lights for the PowerPoint? A few minutes into his talk at Al Medina Theater 2 years ago, the mayor of Beirut, Bilal Hamad, outlined the reasons behind the decades of unwarranted closure of Beirut's only large park, Hirsh Beirut. The mayor back then, and also again in the talk he gave for the Buttress highway, listed an array of undesirable activities that he believed would dominate the uses of the park if it were open. Picnics, eating, walking on the grass, smoking shisha, kissing, or engaging in political violence. The undesirable public portrayed by Hamad is an uninhabited park, sterile, devoid of surprises, and scripted according to a narrow definition of what an appropriate public may be. This control of public space in Beirut is not limited to the Central Park. Elsewhere in the city, one finds municipal properties to be leased out to private institutions that would define and limit their uses. Thus, a large municipal plot in Verdun was offered to Dar al-Fatwa, displaying a sign at its gate that reads, "Private property, entry not allowed." Aside from the main Seafront corniche, where people converge from all quarters of the city, Beirut can almost only claim privatized spaces. The latter are mostly concentrated in the historic urban core of the city, turned high-end commercial downtown known as Solidaire. Zaytuna Bay, for instance, is a new marina created over the rubbles of the historic fisherman port, now turned into one of the most expensive real estate in the region. Following a tradition which relies on the privatization of zones marked for public uses, Beirut has undergone diverse forms of controlling public space. Particularly, it witnessed the gradual disappearance of coastal lands accessed by the public. Indeed, private beach resorts, hotels, and exclusive marinas with walls, gates, and entrance fees punctuate the coast of Beirut and hinder the access of Beirutis to the sea. A 1997 report indicated that capital holders, some of which hold political office, own 81% of the coastal developments between Jounieh Bay and Beirut Airport. Most of these developments took place during the Civil War as part of a broader process of seafront encroachment. But the continual growth of such resorts has in fact been enshrined and allowed by the law, not merely in contradiction to it. A citywide condition is hence being produced where it's possible to claim that the usual provider of public space, namely the state, is either disinterested or openly at war with such spaces. Yet despite these conditions, Beirut dwellers still lay claim today to a limited number of open spaces in the city whose uses are public, in the sense that they're accessed freely and allow for an unconfined range of activities to occur. Access to these spaces is secured through social and communal gatherings through which their uses are organized, rather than the laws and institutions of a central state. This talk will hence advocate learning from the public by observing leftover spaces in the city in order to understand them as public, multicultural, and politically and socially open. In the mainstream discourses, the existence of public space has often been explicitly or implicitly pegged to the notion of a state, the provider of an abstract public that sets the rules for social interaction. Such representation has materialized in Lebanon, where discussions of public space often turn into lamenting the weakness of the state and its inability to plan its cities and provide open spaces for its citizens. In fact, in a debate that took place at the Beirut Art Center a year and so ago, some argued that discussions of public space freeze activism in the struggle for state building. They considered public space in Lebanon as an ideal, as a frequently offered but impossible solution to many of the problems that beset Lebanese society. As these arguments reveal, the dominant discourse on public space presupposes citizenship and central authority, generally assuming that it's the product of a national state that secures the availability of public space to its citizens. There is hence an assumption that public space has always been dependent on a sense of predictability and entitlement. It's here that I introduce Dalieh. It's a large piece of seafront land in Rawche area, made up of several large plots. Although Dalieh is neither a park nor public property, it's used as one of the main public spaces in the city. It boasts several informal seashore kiosks with a stream of visitors enjoying the sea, picnicking, swimming, bathing, and strolling. It's a main destination for swimmers and divers who come from different parts of Beirut to exercise their passion of jumping off of high cliffs into the Mediterranean waters. The area also encompasses two local fishing ports, one of which is famous for offering boat rides along the coast of Beirut. Pedestrians access it through a makeshift gap they created in the Corniche balustrade, while cars use an untreated road next to the Movenpick entrance. Dalieh is visited on a daily basis by strollers, the Rawche Corniche public, as well as couples. As Abu Abed, a longtime resident of Dalieh, says, everywhere you look, you will see lovers. They sit on the rocks, staring out to the sea and at each other. They have no other place to go in Beirut. Dalieh also includes a variety of social groups, such as the Beiruti fishermen, Corniche visitors, suburb dwellers, Iraqi refugees, and Syrian migrant workers and refugees, and others. It's also the hosting site of the Grand Nowruz festivities celebrated by the Kurdish community living in Beirut. On the 21st of March every year, it transforms into a space in which they gather in thousands, set up food kiosks, a music stage, and dance all day carrying their national flags. Reading its cadastral registry documents, we see that since the 1940s, the site of Dalieh has been declared as an unbuilt land property of several families. In order to trace back the history of property in Dalieh, it's important to understand its geographic location in relation to Beirut. This is an Ottoman map of Beirut where they used to put it upside down, and Dalieh is up, right up. And you can see the old city walls in the red, we're in the concentration of red here. During the Ottoman period, Dalieh was outside the city walls. Most lands outside the walls of old Beirut were miri, meaning lands within state domain. After the Ottoman land registration, the tabu, was issued with the Tanzimat in 1861, the Sultan bestowed some miri lands to notables or persons of influence. Taking, for example, the case of plot number 1113, which is the largest plot in Dalieh with an area of 26,000 square meters, the cadastral archive indicates that this plot was owned by Amir Said Irslan according to a tabu dated 1876. The Irslan family was influential back then and was hence given privileges by the Sultan. In 1916, Amir Said Irslan sold the land to someone from the Shatila family, Around that time, during the French Mandate, a cadastral survey transformed land tenure practices. Dalieh, as well as the rest of Beirut, was subjected to modern property categories. Lands along the coast transformed into specifically defined single plots and assigned individual lots to individual owners. Plot 1113 was then registered property of Abdelmajid Shatila. Over the years, other families bought shares in the plot, such as the Aitani, the Arabs, Haddad, Matar, Afif, and Mawad, along with multiple inheritances, leading to the land being shared by multiple owners. Yet regardless of property, the use of Dalieh as a shared space is specifically interesting in abandoning the modern accepted notion of public space that is tied to ownership through the state's attribution of designated spaces in the city, such as park, garden, or other named ascriptions. Abandoning this trap opened new possibilities for understanding public space in Beirut as spaces of negotiation through daily interaction. It's a space shaped by the user's various spatial practices, resulting in the emergence of their own conceptual spaces and regarded as part of the public domain. In fact, the practice of Dalieh as a public space is grounded in the historical context of public use of urban space in Beirut. There are countless stories that recount that since the 1940s, Dalieh used to be a renowned picnic and outing destination for families to gather on holidays and Fridays, bringing their food, beverages, and argile and a family member who played the oud, buzo, or tabla. The activity was called the sayaran, and it referred to the practice of making a picnic, an outing, in manatiq tanazzuh, i.e. places of promenade or strolling. These tanazzuh sites included places such as Ramlat al-Bayda Beach, Hirsh al-Uza'i, Hirsh Sa'it al-Janzir, Karm al-Ashrafiyya, Mazra'at al-Arab, Hirsh Beirut, Karm Shatila and Rawche, and Minat al-Zrai'a and Manara. Historical narratives reveal that public use of urban space in Beirut was not restricted to designated parks. To the contrary, activities such as tanazzuh and sayaran took place in sites characterized by openness and lack of ascription. Their names refer to spaces from nature, forest, vineyard, and plantation. It is specifically the controversy of an unscripted view of public space versus the ordered view that interests me, because it opens new possibilities with regards to public space as a space provided and created by the state. The idea could be further illustrated when looking at the pictures of Martyrs Square in 1991. And examples of such pictures is those I had taken on the day the Civil War was declared to have ended. My mother, sister, and myself had set foot for the first time after the war in downtown Beirut. The pictures document a moment when people gathered in Martyrs Square around the statue and celebrated their ability to visit the city's historic core. The children played and jumped around the statue, and people put out plastic chairs, sweet vendors approached the site, as well as the famous Pink Panther ice cream van. The informality of the interactions that transpire through such photos of Martyrs Square sharply contrast with its contemporary practices. Today, Martyrs Square is a central vehicular roundabout and a site of commemoration. It is, in other words, a space which uses and practices are predetermined, fixed, controlled, and free of passion. Along Beirut's coast today, this informality of practice could also be seen in how recently many people are frequently crossing the fence of a privately owned green piece of land overlooking the sea and having picnics there with their children running around. Adjacent to it is another large, privately owned plot that used to be the parking lot for the Summerland Beach Resort. Having been not in use for many years, the parking is now used as a playground. Children ride their bikes on the asphalt road, and the families picnic in where the cars used to park, now turned green patches. The public's different spatial claims are hence defying the language of property, in which definitions must be certain and actions predictable within clear spatial boundaries. Public space in Beirut is hence an embodiment of diverse publics, much more dynamic than the traditional notion of public space that is tied to property. The case of Dalieh, in fact, illustrates a collective entitlement to space in which property is conceived as a more diverse category, both empirically and politically, treated in a more socialized way, as Blomley, I was quoting Blomley. Yet these social spaces are under constant threat. In Dalieh, where the square meter of land would trade for no less than $10,000, it's a site that is continuously threatened by private investors. In 1995, three real estate companies, all owned by the late Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri, purchased on a single day the vast majority of shares from the owners of the plots in Dalieh. The companies are called Al-Bahr, Sakhrat Al-Bahr, and Sakhrat Al-Yamama. In 2005, the company representatives started negotiations with the fishermen community in Dalieh over the amount of compensation that they would receive to evict the site. 8 months ago, these same companies ordered the eviction of the fishermen community through court orders. During the past month, they have succeeded in negotiating with the fishermen, compensating them with amounts ranging from $80,000 to $500,000, bulldozing their houses and evicting them. More recently, they have started to construct a fence around Dalieh, along with allocating members of a private security company, possibly in preparation for closing off the site from the public. The company representatives have also lobbied for the construction of a high-end tourist project in Dalieh by hiring an architecture firm who presented the new project to the municipality of Beirut. The planned project, it seems, similar to what is planned at the southern tip of Ramlat al-Bayda beach, will consist of a hotel resort with a marina for yachts. The details of the new project are yet to be known, as there is a high level of secrecy around it. Yet, regardless of the details, the project is going to take Dalieh away from its social function and transform its public use into private. In the attempt to think of property otherwise, from what entry point can one defend and reclaim Dalieh? Does the celebration of spatial practice and the acquisition of public space mean that ownership is not important? And given the structure of the local political economy where state institutions are dominated by property investors, and in a context where state regulations and property systems protect and encourage the practices of private investors, what is to be done? I will discuss here a few ideas on what is to be done, and they're mostly linked to an ongoing campaign that's trying to defend Dalieh as one of the last surviving public spaces along the coast of Beirut. One of them is a lobby for the change in the legal framework. If we look at the history of laws governing the Beirut seafront, the first set of zoning codes applied to the seafront was issued in 1954 with the Beirut Master Plan, which prohibits construction of any kind along the coast. However, as of 1966, a series of laws and decrees were issued to facilitate building development along the coast and consequently ban free and public access to the sea. Specifically, in 1966, the zoning regulations for Zone 10, in which Dalieh is included, and it stretches from Rawche area to Ramlat al-Bayda, the zoning regulations for Zone 10 were amended, permitting building activities in various degrees. Additionally, real estate companies were allowed to double their exploitation factors when the owner is a real estate company as opposed to a regular owner. More drastically, a decree was passed in conjunction with the amendments made to the zoning regulation, a decree that in fact transformed the nature of the entire Lebanese coast. It's numbered 4810, and it's called Nizam Ishghal al-Amlak al-Amma al-Bahriya. It was issued on the 24th of June 1966 to allow owners of property adjacent to the sea to privately exploit the maritime public domain. However, when it was issued back then, it carried with it a set of conditions related to the common good. So in case someone has a plot adjacent to the sea and exploits the public domain, this property owner has to offer 25% of his or her property to the municipality to transform it into a public garden. Also, when the decree was issued in 1966, it excluded Zone 10 from Rawche to Ramlat al-Bayda, in order to preserve it as a publicly accessed seafront area for the inhabitants of Beirut. However, and despite these conditions related to the common good, the decree in fact paved the way for all future developments of the coast of Beirut. Indeed, by simply dropping the public utility condition, later legislation allowed for a very high exploitation of the coast. And this major change occurred specifically in 1981, when in the heat of the Civil War, a decree numbered 169 was issued to allow the exploitation of the public domain in Zone 10. So what the decree of 1966, when it was issued excluding Zone 10, this one in 1981 included Zone 10, and it abolished the article that requested that 25% of the land should be granted to the municipality once the public domain is exploited. So hence, the legal framework is one entry point to lobby for a tool to lobby for a change, to not only abolish Decree 169 that deals specifically with Zone 10, but to actually abolish Decree 4810 to save whatever is left of open spaces on the coast, on the entire coast of Lebanon. The second entry point is to redefine the notion of property along the coast of Beirut. Looking at this map actually it maps all lands on the seafront, and everything in blue, in two shades of blue, is in fact private property. And this research is not based on today's ownership titles, but is based since the cadastral registry was issued in 1926. So these plots have been private property, either of families since the 1920s, which puts in question how were these lands allocated. And in fact, some of the research shows that, one explanation is that during the French Mandate, what remained of Ottoman Miri lands along the coast were bestowed by the French authorities to notables in Lebanon, in Beirut, to have them on their side and so on. But this definitely needs further investigation to try to understand how come all plots on the coast of Beirut are privately owned since the 1920s. And to also more specifically look at plot, again, number 113 in Dalieh, we can see that the development of the plot from 1926 until today has drastically changed. The first aerial photo on the top left, in blue, you see the contour of the rocks, and you can immediately differentiate between the texture of the rocks and that of the cultivated land. What's in red is what are the limits of plot number 113 in 1926, and this is according to the taboo that's dated 1871 that says that the area of this plot is 11,000 square meters. And then when we put the cadastral map of 1966 on the top right over the aerial photo of 1966, we can see that plot number 1113, the limits have reached up until the very edges of the rocks, almost more than doubling the area of plot number 1113. And hence there is really a need to investigate what has happened between these two dates and how come these coastal lands are private, and not only private, they have exceeded the limits of what the land was used and cultivated and delimited, reaching onto the slopes of the rocks that go down to the sea. Furthermore, there's a need to recognize the prescriptive right that city dwellers have acquired to this site, meaning the right to become legally established or accepted by long usage or the passage of time. As such, the expropriation of Dalieh lands by a public agency to protect the common interest of city dwellers is also a possible demand. All the more so as the municipality of Beirut has recently committed to a global environmental vision for the city. In this sense, by recognizing the prescriptive right, we would be transforming the notion of property to exclude into a property to not be excluded. And also a bit of research into what would an expropriation of Dalieh cost. The area is 116,000 square meters, and For expropriation, we did some calculations of how much expropriation would cost because it's lower than the regular market prices. And per square meter, it would be between $1,000 and $1,500, which would amount to almost $150 million, صح? Something around this figure. And this is the Facebook page for the recent campaign that has been launched for Dalieh. And in a city like Beirut on the Mediterranean, the right to the city embraces the right to seafront lands. In fact, it is more than an individual right to a natural resource. It is a collective right whose current absence shapes our relationship to the city. As such, it's up to each and every one of us to mobilize and lay claim over Dalieh. In the end, it is how us, users, state officials, professionals, academics, and activists conceive of the public sphere that shapes the policies that are put in place to govern such places. The fact that Dalieh has so far been open for decades is in itself inspiring and empowering. Dalieh is where we could best imagine the possibilities for reclaiming back our city by focusing on our right to the space as both a working slogan and a political ideal. And this is the end of the talk, and I invite you all to join the campaign and to support all efforts being made to defend Dalieh. Thank you.
Thanks, Abir. Before I forget, I wanted to thank Leila Abalan, who helped organize this lecture, and who is also the coordinator of the program that's putting on the lecture within IFI, and that is the Social Justice and Development Policy in the Arab World program, and it is a collaboration with the BOP Center at Princeton, looking at the different dimensions of social justice and the calls for social justice and economic development that came out of the Arab uprisings. So we're still developing this program and this project, but that obviously today's lecture is a critical part, looking at public space as an issue around social justice. So with that, we have plenty of time to have some Q&A and comments, and maybe what we'll do, and it's up to Abir, is take a couple of comments and questions and then bring it back to Abir. So we'll open it up. And I think is there a microphone, Alex, around? So have one person there.
I want to ask if there is an interest in the landmarks as open spaces, starting from Bliss Street down to the coast, Ain Embracing. Is there any decree that can protect the landmarks? I mean, you didn't mention this, maybe, I don't know.
Landmarks, you mean, what do you mean by
cultural old buildings that existed ever long ago in the area. Like old coffee shops, old buildings, architects, and so on. I mean, if you walk down...
Like protected buildings and areas that have
there
historic
should be,
value.
I mean, in my opinion, there should be a decree that can preserve the landmarks, buildings, the old culture, old architect, that gives an identity to the area there. Same area that you're talking about. Starting from Bliss Street down to the coast.
Do I respond now or we take some?
Did you get me?
Yeah. I think we got that. Is there another question? And then maybe what we'll do is come back to Abir. If there isn't a question immediately, go ahead and try to. Oh, there's one right here.
Thank you very much. I found what you spoke is very, very important, because I often wonder about all these public spaces starting with the Dalieh, which is right beside my house. I was very shocked to see that all of a sudden it became private property, because I for sure know that it is for the municipality, has been there for years. So coming down to Dalieh, also again, I always go there and sit around, and I'm one of the people who lounge around that area. It's beautiful. And now we are watching all these stones and all this construction starting, I think. So my question is, are you having a kind of an organization or something that we can join? That because there is strength in unity, if people speak out. We in this Arab country, at least in Lebanon, we are used to accepting things. We just say, oh, the developers. We never do anything about anything. So it will be wonderful if we can all unite and really do something. Otherwise, it's all going to go.
Okay. In terms of the protected landmarks along the coast, I mean, definitely public space along the coast cannot really be disconnected on what's happening on the other side. But I don't think, I'm not sure, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any decree that protects heritage building in that area. But also, more importantly, the issue is has to do with policy and the regulatory framework itself, in the sense that the building law and even property taxation, which Muna can talk about more, are in themselves encouraging the demolition of such building and replacing them with high-rise buildings that are disconnected of history and social context. So in fact, instead of actually lobbying or thinking of a decree that would protect these heritage sites, I think we all need to think of and lobby for an alternative building law and a different property system, I would say. Now about what I mean, there's let me go back to this one. There's currently a campaign that has just been launched, and it's entitled الحملة الأهلية للحفاظ على دالية الروشة, and it's trying to tackle the issue from different entry points. So one of them is actually the campaign was planning to have an event in Dalieh to reaffirm the use of Dalieh and celebrate this public space, but these plans were, I mean, the project has been faster than than us, and developments have been really quick. As you could see, they're starting to put a fence and so on. So now the campaign is in the process of wanting to launch a press conference that will happen soon, and we will publicize it, and it would be great for everyone to interact on as an initial step on the Facebook page, and to sign the petition, and the page will always be updated with whatever events are happening. But in parallel to campaigning in this sense, there are also, I mean, the laws and all the other tools that I have discussed. We're trying to put effort with talking to members of the higher council to not issue a permit, to demand through the Ministry of the Environment to have the project publicly announced and their details disclosed, because this is even this is mentioned in an environment law, I forgot its number, that was issued in 2002, that obligates the municipality to publicly present the project, because it would have, on such a site, it would have a huge environmental and social impact on the entire neighborhood. So there are several steps that we want to engage in that would pressure the municipality, the DGU, and other official actors into taking action towards this. So any help and support would be definitely need everyone.
First of all, I'd like to say that I love public spaces. It's definitely something I miss staying here in Beirut. Just, actually looking forward, coming back to Norway, going out, having a barbecue in the park, all that. But when I'm visiting public spaces here in Lebanon, I'm met with, you know, a lot of pollution, a lot of litter. You know, I was watching the pictures from this area we're talking about here now, and saw how, you know, it was cultivated and green before, and then, you know, now it's just dirt and rocks and garbage all around. So I don't know, like, how, you know, if creating public spaces, you know, somebody has to take care of them, you know, and like, you know, the people using them have to, you know, use it in a proper way. And I don't know, like, maybe places I've been to, I've been looking for public space. I've been looking for beaches, you know, public beaches, not paying 50,000 to enter some resort. And I found some places which is like some semi-private and semi-public. So they take a bit, you know, and they clean it, and they, you know, they make sure that it's, you know, not destroyed, or, you know, people, you know, behave properly in the place, you know, and not, you know, taking a lot of money for it. So could that be a possibility for that area, you know, so like letting it be public for, you know, anybody to do whatever they want there, and you just throw their garbage, and, you know, I don't know, like remove the last green areas there. Yeah, that's my question, actually.
Thank you very much for this lecture. It's very interesting to see that, you know, people are doing scientific work on these public spaces. My question is that the campaign that you're putting forth is very important and significant. However, do you have any political support for this? Because Lebanon, like many other countries, not just in the Arab world, but even in the West, you really need political support for a big decision like this, kind of a policy issue to go through. We've seen this before in Lebanon in the tobacco issue, no smoking laws that were passed. I mean, the campaign had strong political support as well as strong political opposition. So my question is, do you have any political support? Are you getting any allies from the political area? Thank you.
Maybe it's just a follow-up to what this gentleman mentioned. I live in north of Jbal, and it's a similar situation where it's a public beach. It's a not paid for a beach, but the municipality is supposed to be keeping it clean, and I'm supposed to be paying a ridiculous amount of money because I'm a resident right near the beach for the municipality to keep it clean when people come and, you know, don't put their garbage in the right place. But the municipality does not do that, and so as a result, as a private resident nearby, it's up to me to clean it up. And this creates a little bit of a tension where, I mean, it's great that people can come, but I guess that's sort of a question, you know, who cleans, if there's a public use, who's responsible for cleaning it up? Is the municipality now doing that, or is it left? And that would be maybe a question. Also, is there tension between residents and users that maybe you can address? So maybe that's just a little bit narrower. I don't know what's the issue with cleanliness. I mean, in every part of the world, I mean, it's municipal management and public authorities that are supposed to manage and to clean public spaces. I mean, and I find it a bit astonishing that in a lot of cases the public is found responsible for whatever degradation or whatever happens in public spaces. I mean, I don't know. We can take also another case, for example, the Sur beach, for example, which is open to the public. It's managed somehow slightly by the municipality. They come and they do their job by the end of the day. And there are kiosks that also people come visit, and some people don't visit it and just use the sea. And it's working perfectly. I don't think it's and unfortunately this discourse is used a lot by officials and specifically by the mayor. And I think Sometimes I get bored of myself to always start with whatever the mayor is talking about, but I think it just puts things into perspective of class prejudices and how the behavior, how the public must behave. And I think what is definitely a major impact on seafront public spaces is the issue of sewage and environmental degradation, and this is directly related to how we could lobby to stop whatever is happening. I mean, the Ramlat al-Baida beach, it's not the public that is littering the sea. It's, you have like 3 big sewage pipes that just draw sewage into the sea. About the campaign and political support, unfortunately, so far we do not have any political support, I would say. I mean, we've spoken to a few members of the Majlis al-A'la للتنظيم المدني, and they voiced their support, but we all really doubt that they would really take a step or an action to refuse the permit when it gets there. So far, we've really been somehow dependent on the idea of on the Ministry of the Environment, hoping that through the minister, because the Ministry of the Environment has the ability to at least delay such a project by really imposing an environmental assessment study and by really saying that this project would be of so and so and so impact. So we soon have a meeting with the new minister. We also have soon a meeting with the Muhafiz to try to, he's also new and we've heard that he might be supportive, so we're also doing that. We're also trying to lobby with Rabita Abna' Beirut because Dalieh means a lot to the Beirutis, I mean, and to the old Beirutis and those who are connected with the identity of Beirut. And actually, Rabita Abna' Beirut, so far, I mean, the fact that who owns the land is Hariri will definitely impact whatever stance they have towards the project. But the only time we've spoken to them so far, they don't know who owns it, and they were extremely outraged when they found out that this project is going to happen. Other than that, we really don't have any political alliances or support. But بعرف.
Environment department, landscape department, all universities, Alba and Lebanese University, American University. Why not?
I think this is very important. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe now this is a platform for.
Especially when you want to issue studies like the ones you're mentioning. When you have a support of higher education, just like the lady said.
Can we go ahead and just use the microphone so we can pick it up on the camera?
Yeah, I had a question, a comment here.
Sorry, can we just have the the question? There's just a...
I've had the microphone for a few minutes, and I just wanted to say that the major issue here is not whether the place is littered or the main point I think that you're trying to address is that Ramlat al-Baida has become a private space. Dalieh is a private space. It's not a public space today. It's used as a public space, but it's not a municipal space. So whether the municipality is going to clean up the litter or protect it, this would come at a later stage. What's important now is change the ownership of the space. And the other very important issue is the high biodiversity importance of Dalieh, and this is a very important point to address as well.
Anna, did you want to follow up on your question?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to second what the lady mentioned earlier in terms of partnering with universities. Again, I quote the project or the effort that the campaign for the non-smoking law that was passed, it was very instrumental that EUB played a role in that, providing the research, so that the NGOs would come to EUB and say, can you help us conduct this study for the ministry, conduct that study, whatever. And then they would provide the evidence, the scientific evidence that the campaign would use to lobby for their purpose, for their cause. And so I think this is a very good recommendation.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and maybe, I don't know, we could think of where the campaign would be doing a series of talks, because also whenever we discuss Dalieh, we're really faced with a lot of questions, specifically because the answer is always it's private property. So there is a need for every time to present what is it about and its history and so on. And believe it or not, like a lot of people in Beirut do not know Dalieh and have never heard of it. So yeah, maybe a series of presentations in different universities would do good for the campaign, and would probably have the universities on our side.
Hi, I'm just interested on a legal level. But sorry, and I arrived a bit late. What's the transaction? Who's the owner, and how did it happen in public space or private? I'm interested in the legal background of.
Yeah, just briefly, because we went through it, but briefly, I mean, the lands of Dalieh have been private property since the first land registration took place. There are documents in the archive of the cadastral registry that show documents that date back to 1870. During the Ottoman period, they were Miri lands, so under the jurisdiction of the Sultan, and a lot of these Miri lands were bestowed to influential and notables, the influential families, and so on. But there are lots of loopholes with the issue of property, and if you want, after we finish, I can give you the talk or go through it with you. It's elaborate. Definitely.
It's a Miri land. I'm interested in seeing how a private entity can buy it. I mean, it's the whole question. How can it become private? And is it legal to become private?
She went through that through the presentation. Why don't we have Mona just respond very quickly to that directly?
Sorry, thanks, Abir. It's always wonderful to hear you. I just want to say something in general. In our mind in Lebanon, we always confound what we can do on a piece of property with who owns it. And that's not the case always. So you can have a land that's owned privately, that's been used for a long time by people as a public space. And private ownership will not contradict that. You may, as a public authority, come in to rent, to organize, but you can restrict the use of it even if it's privately owned. And it requires an intellectual effort from people like us who really think private property is then I own it, I can kill it, I can burn it, I can do anything I want with it. That's not the case. I mean, just look at what happened in Europe after Second World War. What happened everywhere in Europe is that there was a separation between what we call ownership right and development right. So you want to own this piece of land, own it. You don't have the right to develop it. If you want to build a building, you're going to come back to me as a public authority, and I'm going to allow you to build it or not build it, depending on whether it's good or not for the commons, those people who live in this place. So Dalieh is really a symptom of a bigger issue, which is Beirut. For everyone who lives in Beirut, whether they're Lebanese or not, whoever they are, is very important. It is the coast, is the emblem of Beirut, it's the image of Beirut. So this coast has a public meaning to all of us as a group. And the law needs to reflect that. The original French law in 1926 reflected that. The first urban regulations reflected that. Today they don't anymore, but that doesn't mean it's not. And we should not accept the premise that someone owns it, whether they own it legally or not, whether they actually did a deal and bought illegally Ramlat al-Bayda, or whether the French gave, or even the Ottomans appropriated the coast, is really inconsequential. We should have a claim that this is public because there's a public claim based on practice. And I think this is Abir's main message, and I love it. And I think we really ought to hold on to it. and to expand it beyond to other places in Beirut. And I just want to say a second thing, which is to bring in another fantastic campaign that's been going on for a while, and it's the Buttress campaign. So for the last 2 years, a group of activists have actually went through the process of resisting the development of a highway through one of the neighborhoods of Ashrafiyeh. They've done fantastic work collecting data, gathering information, lobbying public officials, and they've actually succeeded. So we are at the process now where in the last meeting in the Ministry of Environment, they actually, we actually got from the head person in the CDR that an alternative project will be commissioned. So they will study alternatives to the project. And that was the work of very smart, very dedicated activists, essentially, like Abir, like many others who have the intellectual tools as well. And so I don't think we need to actually run after politicians. They are actually stakeholders, and they want to take this place where we are. I see these multiple efforts as a way to actually get out of the politicians who are imposing on us their actual private interests. And I wonder if you responded saying we don't have support from the politicians. So my question for you, do you really care about going after the parliamentarians, or is there an alternative strategy to go bottom up through the media and other possible venues, including universities?
Well, the campaign was always about mobilizing and not dealing with politicians. But the problem was that the project was going much faster than our mobilization. So our connection or attempts to connect with the politicians, and mainly the Ministry of Environment, is to actually delay the project. And because even if the environment law says that there needs to be an environmental impact study, a lot of projects, the construction would start and the environmental impact study is going on in parallel. So we really need to, I think this could be a good first tool to go after and make it actually happen. I mean, halt the construction, halt the project, and under the banner of that we need an environmental assessment impact study. And in the meantime, gain time and lobby and mobilize and produce visuals and videos and interventions and whatever imagination and creativity we can put in this campaign.
Yeah, Abir, my question was in line with what Muna was saying, that the main issue here is that we're dealing with a subject that is outside of think tank issue. It's a new thing that is happening in Lebanon, and we need to address it in this dimension. And I think there are many activism going on in Lebanon, and the tobacco issue, though it didn't succeed completely, but it still did something new to the in Lebanon. And this is, I think this is where the effort should be focused, that in the campaign, the idea of thinking outside of the box, bringing a new approach into dealing with the law and changing laws. And as Mona mentioned, there are examples we can learn from, and I think it's good for the public to learn from other examples. The example you gave for Sur is a very valid one. We can see it. But also other examples of how dealing with the law, like Mona mentioned, in Europe, and the appropriation of public space, though it's privately owned. So we're behind you.
Someone.
Hi, Abid. Thank you so much. Is there any protocol or any history of the municipality buying land for public purposes? Does the municipality still do that? Is there a procedure or protocol? Can they come up with $100 million? I know they have they say they have $1 billion in the bank. We don't know. So can we ask for a kind of mechanism for, appropriation of public space by the municipality? Is there not one that exists? So,
I mean, I don't know a lot of examples, but I know when the Diverse Cities Conference took place. For example, the Fayrouz's house was bought by the municipality. I don't know if other people know of other examples, but صح. And historically this has happened. So for example, حديقة السيوفة, it only became a municipal park in 1964. Before that, it was privately owned. It was مزرعة السيوفة, and it was publicly used for decades because it was green and it has a nice view over the river and the front mountain. And based on, its use was consolidated by it being, the land was bought by the municipality. And I think they do have the money, they do have the budget. I don't know. We've had this discussion a lot. A change in the legal framework or demand for expropriation. And in a sense, I don't know, because on one level, I believe that there needs to be a change in the law, because Law 4810 reflects vision, and it reflects a vision and policy on how seafront lands are viewed. I mean, they've paved the way for the exploitation of the public domain. So on a conceptual level, this law needs to be abolished, no matter what. I mean, and I think we need to keep on lobbying. Even every time we discuss this with anyone, they say it's impossible. You're asking for a change in law. This will affect the interests of hundreds of developers in the country. But I think we need to keep lobbying for it. In my opinion, more than expropriation, because it really it's an issue of vision, and it's conceptual. It's not only in terms of direct impact. This is something about the future of the city, and even if subsequent laws were issued, such as the environment law in 2002 that says that any citizen has the right to freely access the beaches and so on. But yet, if you look at every permit, they say استنادا إلى المرسوم 4810. يعني they go back to that one, which gives them the ground to do whatever they're doing.
Can we just wait for the microphone so that...
Yeah, for the budget issue, have you considered approaching donors? I mean, not really, yeah. Or a campaign for...
We've considered actually making a campaign to collect money. Even if it doesn't, sort of symbolic that we're collecting money from every single person, whether as little as $10 and as high as $1,000, to be able to reclaim this space. Yeah, we haven't gone far with that.
I disagree. I don't think we should pay. They change the law, the land prices go up, they exclude us from the city, they change the law more. We deal with land prices as if they're supply and demand. Supply is created by the policies they make. This land should not cost what it costs, and we should not be paying for it. I personally strongly feel that we should not be paying. We should continue to use it. And the best campaign to keep Dalieh is for everyone to take their kids, their friends, every Sunday, no matter what happens, and go picnic there. If you practice this as a public space, it will be impossible to take it from you. And
I just want to jump in terms of some of these successful campaigns, whether it's the Fuad Buttress campaign or any other campaign that's out there to defend public space. I think we should obviously learn from those experiences, figure out what worked and what laws stopped certain development from happening. But even after that, what people get really disencouraged about in a place like Lebanon is that the amount of corruption and the ability for politicians to go around certain laws. I don't understand the legal system in Lebanon so well that, I feel like it's people are able to get around it all the time. They're able to change the laws, or through their connections or corruption, end up getting past the legal system. Is that true around public space, or is policy and law? It's a good place to start.
Abir, the project is on fast track. What to do, how to put on hold the construction if tomorrow the site will be closed. Do the public, people has the right to claim to يحطوا إشارة على العقار؟ لتوقفي في الحق العام. sorry in Arabic because إنه في شيء بالقانون in the law, there is a law for the public sector, مش public sector، نحن people إنه عنا حق عام for the use إنه نحط إشارة على العقار. إنه we should act very fast. What to do to put on hold the construction?
I think we definitely need to mobilize on the ground. And in terms of a public right, we all have the right to reach the sea, okay, to access the sea. Maybe not their land, okay. Legally, they can close off their property, but we have the right to access the sea. Now, what we're expecting that they will soon close off the site, including the sea, because that's the main purpose why they've removed the fishermen. And even in a discussion with one of the private security that's allocated on the entrances of the site now, he said that they're waiting to evict the last family, the Aitanis, to close it off. And the security members that are now deployed on the corniche, on the entrances, will be deployed on site so that no one is allowed to enter. So we need to definitely mobilize on the ground and keep on trying to go in with the right that we have the right to access the sea. And another tool, I think we really need to very, very, very quickly demand the municipality to publicly announce the project and to demand the Ministry of the Environment to halt everything until there's a study made on the site. I think these are the only direct tools we can now deal with. I really can't think of anything else unless we need to protest, we need to mobilize, we need to get the media on it, we need universities on it.
Can approach him.
Yeah, we've been told so.
I believe in this man, so take the opportunity and go for it.
Okay, we're gonna take a lounge.
I want to respond to you. I think we all, one big issue we always fall into is trying to play like the police with officials. Like we go into the detail of the law that you trespassed this law, and then they'll find another way to go around it, and then we'll try to go around it, and so on. In this sense, I think we need to propose alternative policy and recommendations that we push to, because whenever we're trying to fight them legally, they will also fight legally, and they're the ones anyway writing the laws and drafting the laws, and so I think the bigger battle needs to be with policy and beliefs of what should happen, rather than fighting them on the small details of the legal framework. I think this will take us more into متاهات.
Okay, we're going to take a last round of questions, and then Abir will close off. Go ahead.
Sorry, in Arabic.
تفضل. كان لازم تكون
بالعربي. هناك مراجع تفيد أن الدالية وما يحيط بالدالية والروشة هناك سويات فينيقية وما قبل الفينيقية ورومانية ويونانية. هناك كهوف كانت تستعمل أو بحاجة إلى أو حاجتها إلى بعض السفن التي كانت ترسو في هذا الميناء كميناء عسكري وميناء تجاري. هل من الممكن أن نوضح أكثر على بهذا المعنى؟
إذا بتقبل ناهدة إنه هي تحكي عن هالموضوع، لأنه بتعرف منيح دالية من الناحية الجيولوجية والتاريخية أكثر مني. إيه؟ إيه إنه إيه ضيفي بالضبط.
Please wait for the microphone for the video, please. Okay, so don't speak, please, unless you have the microphone, because we need it for the video. Thank you. Okay.
في من نيوليتيك عندي مراجع كمان. هو السايت archaeological سايت. كان حتى يقال انه في مصنع كان للفلنت يلي هن ادوات، كل الادوات يلي مصنوعه من الحجر، كان معمل هونيك. منشان هيك لقوا فلنت ومحطوطين بالموزيوم تاع الايوبي، وفي دراسات عليها، وحتى في باليوم بفرنسا في من هيدول التولز. يعني مزبوط انه بالاكيد انه كان هيدا مصنع. عم نحكي من ايام من قبل اليونان والرومان ومش فينيقي.
في قبل التاريخ كده.
اوكي.
One there and one there, and then we'll go back to Abir.
أنا نسيب الصلح، خرجت هون من الأيوبي سنة ال77. بس سنة ال70 لما دخلت كان بعده عمري يعني منه كبير، وأخذت Archaeology 201. اجت بروفيسور سيدن أخذتنا لهونيك محل ما هو الموفنبيك هلا، ومحل ما هو السايت، وجبنا أدوات من العصر الحجري وجبناهم لهون على الأيوبي. كنا شي 40 ولد بهديك الوقت. فهيدا الأهمية اللي لازم نحن نسلط الأضواء عليها، مثل ما قال الأستاذ والأستاذة هون، إنه هيدا شعبنا بحق له يحافظ على تراثه، ولا المال هو أهم من ذلك، والبطون والعمارات والكذا. يعني بعدين هل أدوية الصحة العقلية أهم من إنه واحد يجي يطلع على المي يتسبح يروق راسه؟ بعد شو هالحكاية هيدي ما بعرف.
Abir, I strongly disagree with, again, the legal approach is very important. As an attorney, I think that you can make a lot of change by just reading, understanding, and trying to tackle the loops of the laws. يعني أنا ما بعرف, I'm not an expert in this field. بس المرسوم 4810 إذا هو إذا فيني أعمل un recours d'inconstitutionnalité، يعني إذا في برهن إنه it's illegal in some ways, this is the easiest. It's not the easiest, but it's really. I mean, خبرة المجتمع المدني in other countries برهن إنه sometimes you try to prove a law unconstitutional and you just put it out. So المشكلة بالcivil society أنا I completely understand اليوم إنه في emergency to act وما فينا نفوت illegal debate. بس on the long run كل ال public spaces اللي كنت عم تحكي عنهم, and that's why I asked بالأول who's the owner and how did it legally end there, because أنا رحت على السايت شفت Ministry of Transport and Public travaux publics. Voilà. So أنا I'm intrigued من وجهة نظري افهم كيف legally عم تتركب الكونتراكت, كيف legally you're getting where you're getting. I think that the legal battle is always profitable لغير campaigns. That's يعني at least if you couldn't stop it, I'm being pessimistic, you could win a case to be applied elsewhere.
مزبوط. أنا بوافقك تماما. يمكن ما يعني الشيء اللغط اللي صار انه يعني كان قصدي على القصص الليجل الصغيره اللي مرتبطه برخص البناء وبقديه فينا يعني نلحقهم انه انتم هالقد بحق لكم تعمروا, بس لا هن بيرجعوا بيلاقوا مدخل تاني وبنرجع بنروح وبنرجع.
What if إذا الرخصة من أولها illegal? What if إذا الرخصة is not based on a law? What if إذا الرخصة is
هن القانون بيسمح لك إنه انه تتخطي قانون البناء وتتخطي قد ايه بتسمح المنطقه وتاخدي مرسوم استثنائي اللي بيطلع من المجلس الاعلى وبيروح على مجلس الوزراء وبيصدقوه. فعشان هيك انا رايي انه بوافقك تماما. بعتقد انا الديماند الاساسي لازم يكون هو الغاء المرسوم 4810 لانه هو اللي شرع كل شيء اللي عم بيصير على شط بيروت، وهو اللي فوتنا. يعني في ناس بيناقشوا انه لازم بدل ما نطالب بالغاء ال 4810 نطالب بانه يتطبق حرفيا، لانه هن عم يتخطوه بكتير محلات. انا هول المتاهات اللي قصدي انه ما نفوت فيهم معهم، لانه دائما حيرجعوا يلاقوا هاو تو ريتالييت بتفاصيل القانون. القانون بحد ذاته هو اللي فتح المجال لإعطاء أولوية للمصالح الخاصة على حساب الصالح العام، وبهالمنطق هو اللي لازم ينلغى. وهذا لازم يكون الهدف الأساسي من حملة على مدى طويل يعني. وحملة مش حتهدف بس الدالية، هي يعني كل الشط من الشمال للجنوب اللي متأثر بهذا المرسوم. فبوافق تماما إنه الإطار القانوني الأكبر هو المدخل الأساسي.
حتى بالإطار القانوني الخاص, if you can back your campaign with really strong legal documents and legal analysis, and I mean it could be much more persuasive than just saying okay we have the right to access it. لأنه the law is the first public thing. يعني قبل السبيس the law should be the يعني it is of public interest and people should be interested in knowing what is the law that is applicable. What are we يعني you got me I think.
لا شكرا كثير مهم اللي قلتي.
unless يعني إذا في عندك شيء مهم. أوكي خلينا بس نرجع لهون. أوكي right over here and then
بس بدي أقول شغلة بالناشونال ماستر بلان تاع لبنان تيريتوري يلي انعمل بال 2005 يعتبر كان في ريكومنديشن ليعملوا لو، واللي عامله هو الCDR يلي معمول هو الدولة اللبنانية اللي عاملته على أساس يتقدم لمجلس الوزراء، وفي بقلبه ريكومنديشن إنه تكون هاي محمية ومصنفينها إلى special characteristics، يعني إلى value physical value و historical value in terms of الكيف يلي موجودين إن كان صخور ولا إن كان open كبابليك سبيس أو open space، وقايلين إنها تكون محمية. هاي الدولة اللي عاملتها هاي بال 2005 يعني معناتها الدولة بدها تطرح هيك شغلة. ما بعرف إذا هاي فينا نعتمد عليها. 2 المشروع البلان فير دو بيروت يلي عم تعملوا ليل دو فرانس upon the request of municipality jointly مع المونيسيباليتي. بالبري كونسبتشوال ستدي كانوا حاطينها، وعندنا عندي كل الدوكيومنت يلي بتقول انه دالية محمية اتس بارك دو لا مير، وعندنا اياها وعاملين هيستوري عنها. بالكونسبتشوال ديزاين يلي هلا انعمل وعملوا حبيب دبس كثير كثير استغربت. شفت الدراسه بعد ما صارت حطوها على السايت، غيروا محله. البلديه غيرت محله وصار على اليمين المنطقه يلي من حد دبيبو تنزلي لملعب الصفا which is weird. يعني there are documents in our hand ما بعرف اذا we can use them.
We're not quickly, and then we're just going to go back to Abir for closing remarks, and then we're going to wrap it up.
هديك الجمعة أنا كنت واحدة من يلي حكيوا مع أبناء رابطة بيروت و apparently يلي عم تقولي معقول كتير ما يكون يعني ما إنه it's possible، لأنه the thing is يلي اشترى الأراضي apparently كان حاطط بباله إنه بده يعمل منها محمية، بس بعدين رجع توفى وما بنعرف إذا هذا الحكي مزبوط ولا لا. وفي منهم هيك عم يقولوا، في منهم إنه they're blaming other people. So this is one thing. So it was probably down the pipeline إنه راح يكون في محمية أو هيك شيء. بس غير عن هيك I believe that Abir's talk is more than anything a call to action. And of course the campaign is going, and of course we have a group of people that are participating, but more than that, you know, we really appreciate your support, but we would like some more activity, direct action on the ground. And for example, Lily, what you were saying, Lily's the lawyer in the back, what you were saying about the legal stuff, بالعكس, I think it would be amazing if you could bring your resources, other people can bring their resources so that we could make this campaign a stronger and more powerful one. So thank you, Abir.
شكرا. ويمكن انه بركي هلا اي حدا مهتم يتابع ويشتغل انه على الارض وهيك، فينا نحط هلا ورقه ونحطوا اساميكم وايميلاتكم.
Last comment.
نحن الشباب الطيبة منتسبح صرنا أكثر من 40 سنة كل يوم، يا بالدالية يا بعين المريسي. كل يوم التقينا وتصادقنا على هالأساس، ونحن معنا أساتذة محامين وفايتين يعني وقفوا التعدي على البقيان، لأنه هلأ نحن عم نحرس المغارات الثلاثة. في 3 مغارات هونيك بقيانة بعد ما طموا بيقولوا لها بركة الوحش، طموها وهيدي فيها نفق مائي من برا لجوا. الهواة كانوا كتير ينبسطوا يعملوها، وهلأ نحن بحاجة لأنه نحن بوز المدفع واقفين قدام المحكمة. الأستاذ علي الديراني وأستاذ داني موسى، ونحن كل يوم منلتقى منتسبح وبدور الحديث نحن وبالمي إنه كيف بدنا نعمل، ونحن بحاجة لمساندة علمية مثل هيدي المساندة اللي عم تتفضلوا فيها. وهلأ في
أن تكون مثابة إخبار الهيئات المختصة على
قدمها.
أرجو أن تكون هذه المحاضرة أن تكون بمثابة إخبار الهيئات المختصة بالحفاظ على الآثار، والشيء الضروري أن نكون يد واحدة للدفاع عن هذا المكان.
شكرا. Help me thank Abir Saksouk to this great talk and enlightening us on what's going on at Dalieh. Anything else, Dalieh?
Thank you ريان وليلى. عذبتها شوي لليلى. And I thank the AFI for doing this, and I really hope that يعني بركي بصير بدل ما يعني أنا أعطي يصير هيدا التوك، نعمل مجموعة من الحملة ونبرم على أكثر من جامعة ونعمل هيدا الشيء، وحنحط هون ورقة للي بده يحط اسمه وتليفونه وإيميله ليتابع معنا على الحملة.